The truth of metal. There's an untold secret about metal and metal foundry. Um, it takes most metal has a cooling off period. Whenever you manufacture metal, or whenever you're doing, well, it's possible. At least I'm just going by my old memory of minerals and metals and basically particles. Whenever you do high end foundry work or something like that, there's an inherent radiation in just about everything. Um, Certain molecules, I don't really remember exactly, but there's something about doing foundry work with high end metals where you always get a lot of things will pick up residual radiation. The radioactive particles have to basically bounce off, or basically they're elements when you create them. Things like gold and stuff like that, when they're created in the initial process. I'm basically just going by stuff that I used to know, pretty much. But certain things have inherent radiation, basically. Now there are ways of cleaning them up. I think there are ways of knocking off the radioactive particles or something like that. It depends on the situation, but basically a lot of things are together loosely. Where you think that this is actually that this is together and stuff like that. But even this is giving off particles. Every now and then, I'm not exactly sure the way it is, but there's things that you cannot see, where like this is actually giving off some radiation, maybe. I don't really remember exactly. I'm basically going by stuff. So where gold and certain minerals or certain things have to go through what they call a cooling off period, which is basically where particles that are basically going to go zinging off of it basically do that. Whenever a molecular bond gets basically disturbed, every now and then, like a particle will go bye bye, like that, and say see ya later. um, Basically, and or something like that. I'm just going by things that I used to remember. But basically, certain things need cooling off periods, and certain things don't. Anyway, it's part of. We used to radiation and radioactive particles and stuff like that was first. It's why around metal foundries you don't ever be around whenever they're heating up metal, whenever they're heating up matter, you don't actually ever be around it because it gives off a radioactive signature. That's why metal foundry people don't live very long. That's why whenever they're pouring metal foundry work, you shouldn't actually be around where they're pouring metal. It's and if you do work there, you should carry around a Geiger counter to make sure that you're not picking up radiation or something like that. Because in a lot of foundry work, when you're heating up metal, when you're heating up molecules, I mean, you're giving them energy, and sometimes a couple of those molecules go bing, bye bye, and one of those molecules can go through you. Now you won't know that the little molecule that's only like 5 or 6 little whatever has basically zinged through your head because it doesn't actually feel like you've hit anything because it's so small that it just goes right through you. And you might notice a little bit of blood later on in the day and go, huh, I must have cut myself. But you didn't cut yourself. A little molecule went right through you. That's only about the size of like a couple microns across or something like that. Like 4 or 5 different little molecules. That's why in metal foundry work and stuff like that, you're not supposed to be around when they pour metal. And if you do, you're very careful. That's why in the old days with the metal foundry, you always pour away from yourself, and you don't look down into what's called. And if you do, you wear a shield and all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of procedures that go along with metal foundry work and all this other stuff. And that's because whenever you're messing around with heat and metal, that is, heat loosens the bonds that hold metal together. That's so radiation was actually was actually found a long time ago, like year 1200 or year 800 or something like that, where we found like radiation and uranium, and basically it's just dense matter. It's all matter of one particular type. Like this is like this kind of like, well, there are always groups of different kinds of minerals and different kinds of things. I mean, you could ask a metal foundry person and they'll tell you a lot more. There are people who have forgotten more about this kind of stuff than most other people know. That, like, even me, like, I just know a basic thing of basically what I was doing like hundreds of millions of years ago, and I know that we first discovered it somewhere around, I don't know, probably around 300 or something like that, or 400, 500. We started doing high-end metal foundry work where we started melting down lots of, basically you can take any matter and turn it, you can take this and turn it into some kind of metal, whatever. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, I don't really know anymore, and I'm not really in the business anymore. Like, I'm just Lucifer Star. So, and I know that the massive amounts of precautions had to be taken for metal foundry work, and you can go to China or Germany and basically, or talk to any of the high-end metal foundry people, and they'll tell you basically the inherent damage with or dangers of being around metal foundry work and why it's dangerous. And there's always been a radioactive. Well, no, people didn't realize that the metal foundry work often had radioactive signatures. Like, there's a lot of metal that has a radioactive signature, and you think it's safe and it looks safe, and you put it in your pocket, and then you notice you can't have kids, and you wonder why, and that's because it's radioactive. Anyway, and radioactive really is a deceptive term. That has to do with radios, which has nothing to do with particles or the particles that zing off of it. So anyway, it was first found a long time ago, around year 300 or year whatever, and because I have a lot of depleted uranium, which is basically uranium that's been allowed to sit around forever, and basically it's no longer radioactive. When you go to space, everything that goes to space and comes back is usually radioactive, but when it comes back. That's either from the radiation that's picked up from the sun or the star in the center of the galaxy, which is giving off all the radiation, or just by re-entering the atmosphere, which also I believe also creates. Anytime you heat up something, it basically becomes radioactive for a little bit, or something like that. That's what the molding and whatever of foundry work of metal really is, basically. And you'd have to talk to a metal foundry person, and they'll tell you more about it more than I am. But basically, it was discovered somewhere around year 1100, 900 or something that basically some things were violent, that there were particles that we couldn't see. A long time ago, people thought that we could see everything that was out in the world. It's like, no, there are thousands of particles, maybe millions of particles that we cannot see. They're zinging all around us, and we don't see them because they're too small for us to see. It has to be a rather large item for us to see. I mean, when you think about it, the tip of this knife is about, you can't really basically ever see that. So that's actually like a couple thousand or a couple hundred, probably a couple thousand molecules across if you really get down to it. So I think the smallest blade is like 1,000, 100, or like 10 something across or whatever, and that's like a scalpel, which is the smallest, sharpest thing. Anyway, though, I don't really know all that much. I just have a basic working knowledge of it, which is basically be very careful. Everything's trying to kill you, pretty much. Space is trying to kill you. The whole world, the whole universe is basically very, very dangerous, especially if you don't really think about what you're doing. That's why I always advise people to always walk around with a Geiger counter, because you never know where you're going to be. You could walk into an intense radioactive source and go, oh my God, and walk away and go, whoa, we're not going there anymore. I mean, you don't know. And it's like, and what's giving off the radiation is something about this big. And it's like if you spend hours near it, like you'll immediately begin to feel a little like you'll go home and you'll be like, I don't feel so good. And you don't know that you were just near something that was giving off like millions of particles every second. I mean, to people who can see particles, like, whoa, that thing's bright, and stuff like that. But to you, it looks like, because you only see like a fraction of a little bit of visible things. So anyway, it's a lot older than the government has tried to hide everything because they wanted to go in and kill everyone and get all the secrets of the universe. And it's like, well, you're not going to get that far. But yeah, and there's all these lies that were wandering around. Everyone was lying about everything, and it's because they were going around killing a lot of people and then trying to say, oh no, there's nothing bad going on here. It's like, anyway, though, but yeah, I mean, my things go back hundreds of trillions of years, and like my LSF -A blackbirds. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I'm LS. So anyway, yeah, the government's been lying to you for a long time. Ask China or one of the other countries like that. They're more honest actually than the so-called American government. But it's the United States or U.S. government now. So anyway, because some psychopaths took it over. So anyway, yeah.